Man, welcome back to another episode of the Relentless Goal Achievers Podcast. We're talking to a good friend of mine today who started from nothing and grew it to $800,000 a year in revenue. Today, my man Chris Powers is the founder and CEO of Southern Values Cooling and Heating in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. Chris, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me, Eric. Glad to be here.
Hey, thanks, man. We got a chance to know each other, and I got to tell you, since I've moved to Lakewood Ranch, I've met quite a few people who own AC companies. As you guys can imagine, this is a hot industry to be in if you're in Florida, if you're in Southwest Florida or all over Florida. But you stood out, and one of the things that stood out about you is the name of your company. So can we start there? Like, how did you come up? Why Southern Values?
Yeah, so when me and my wife started the company back in 2010, we wanted something that reflected kind of our mindset. And my kids are eighth generation Floridians. We have a long heritage, in the southern United States, and something that we're proud of. Kind of the old school honor and work mentality, and just kind of doing things the right way. And so we were kicking around some different variations of what would fit that, what would explain it within a couple words, as we were kicking stuff back and forth. And I said something about Southern, and my wife said, what about Southern values? That plays both sides of the fence there, where it's talking about the fact that we have Southern values, and we're polite, and we try to do things the right way. And on the other side, the value of what we provide as a service and as a company. And it was like a light bulb went off, and I said, that's the one. So it was kind of neat that we both got to add a little bit to the name, and we've got a lot of compliments on it over the years, at least for the most part.
Man, that's really cool, Chris. What were some other choices you had?
Let's see. Well, Southern Comfort was one that we really liked. At that time, Southern Comfort was an AC company here locally, and it ended up being bought out by a private equity firm, which is something that's going on a lot now. But they became 1 Hour Air, which is a huge conglomerate that most people are probably aware of. That was one that we really liked, because again, it played both sides of the spectrum there. Unfortunately, somebody beat us to that one.
Southern Comfort's a whiskey, isn't it?
It is. It is. That would hit the note for other people too.
That's brilliant, man. That would have been brilliant advertising. Southern Comfort, and then you show up, and for every service call, you give them a Southern Comfort bottle.
Yeah, I'd be all right with that. Heck, I might hang around with them.
Yeah, I could. Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. So, when did you start the company?
It would have been May of 2010. At that time, I had been in the industry. Let's see, I graduated in 2002, so I would have been in the industry since about 2003, 2004 at that point. So I had 6 or 7 years in the industry, and I was lucky enough to start at the bottom, doing new construction duct work, and then new construction installation, service, and change outs. And so I got to see every aspect of the business, where unfortunately a lot of guys these days, they come into the industry and they're taught how to do maintenances, and that's all they do for 15 years, or just repairs. And the problem with that is then when you get into somebody's house, the issue that they're having may really be stemming from the ductwork. But if you haven't experienced that part of it, it's going to be really hard for you to do a good job on the diagnostic side things there. So I was lucky to get into it at an early age and get the years in before I started my own.
What made you want to go out on your own? Why not just? I mean, there's a lot of risk going out on your own.
Yeah, there is, and I'm generally a risk taker, but to be honest with you, after spending 6 or 7 years in the trade, I saw a lot of good things. I learned a lot of good things, and I saw a lot of bad things. A lot of really poor workmanship, a lot of really shady sales stuff that went on. And I ultimately looked at it and said, hey, we have a skilled trade here, and we should be paid well for it, but we shouldn't take advantage of people in order to make that money. I think that there was a version where we could make a good living and still give an honest product and take care of people, service wise. So the time came where another company starting to kind of do things the wrong way, and things that I wasn't morally okay with. And I said, it's time. I actually came home. My wife was pregnant with our first son. And I came home, and I walked in the door, and I said, well, babe, don't freak out, but I quit my job. And she's like, we have a child being born in a few months, And I'm like, yep, I'm gonna get my license. I'm gonna get my mechanical AC license, and I'm gonna start my own thing. Luckily, she loves me and she trusts me, so she said, "Okay, I guess this is what we're doing." That blossomed into, we've been in business 15 years, and I guess we're doing something right.
From that moment, like from I quit my job to I need to get a license, like how long did it take for you to get a license and actually start the company?
It took it probably took about 3 months for me to get the license. I had already purchased the books. The test is extremely hard. I think statistically they say like 80% of people fail the test at least once before passing it and getting their license. And I was never, some amazing scholar in school, so I thought, oh, I'm going to have to fail this thing a few times. And but I put my head down and studied, and man, I tell you, when I went and took that test, I got done with it, and it was an 8-hour test. There was 2 parts, and each part was 8 hours, and 26 books, open book test, and it's grueling. I had played sports in high school, and I knew what it was like to be physically exhausted. And people have talked about being mentally exhausted or emotionally exhausted. And I was, oh no, that's not real. And man, I took that test, and when I got done, they give you your results right then. It was all I could do not to cry, literally. And I went and sat in my truck just in disbelief. I can't believe I just passed this thing the first go, and life's about to start. So it was about 3 months from the time that I walked through the door and said I quit to when I had my license. And I had been building a customer base over the years. Again, I'm born and raised in this town. People would call, hey, my air's broke. Okay, I'll come take care of it for you as a friend on the side. The word spread over the years that I was doing it. And so by the time I got my license and actually opened the doors, I had a decent amount of work for a low overhead one-man operation. It was enough to keep us going until we could get on our feet.
Oh yeah, you're probably one of 4 AC companies that I know. I'm pretty close with the CEOs, and every single one is just extremely busy these days, especially after the hurricanes. I mean, the stuff that just came through here. You guys, I mean, what a great trade to be in.
Yeah, yeah, and the sad part is that we're struggling to find people to get into the trade, and even young people to get in the trade. And what people I don't think realize is that it's not like the old days where people are just trying to pay minimum wage and get the most out of you. There's good companies out there like ours that, hey, we want to pay you really well, and we expect you to do a really good job, but we got to get the message out to more of these young guys that there's a really good living to be made here, on an honest service. And right now it's hard to get those guys to feel as busy as we are.
Man, that is, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Tell me about how you grew up, man. So you grew up in the area. What was life like?
Yeah, it was a little simpler, I think, than it is now. There was a lot less people. I mean, I remember when parts of State Road 70 was dirt road, and my dad actually grew up off 75th Street in West Bradenton, and they used to deer hunt and rattlesnake hunt and all this stuff in town. Where these nice, expensive, fancy houses are. They grew up running around barefooted, hunting animals out there. For me, it was kind of the same thing, a little simpler, a lot more land. We grew up doing a lot of that stuff, a lot of hunting and fishing and riding 4-wheelers and being outdoors. Things are obviously a little bit different now. There's not a lot of room left for that. And, like any town, it had its ups and downs and bumps in the road, but it definitely had a more of a small town feel back then. I guess depending on what you like, I miss those days.
I can imagine. So when you started the company, 15 years now, were you by yourself back then? It was just Chris doing keeping the books, running the calls, scheduling meetings, marketing, all of that?
Every bit of it. Yeah. Yeah. And, I look back now that I've learned a little bit and go, wow, I wasted a lot of time not getting somebody to help me with that, because yeah, it was, I'd be crawling through an attic doing a job, answering the phone and writing something down on a 2x4 up there, and then, transferring it downstairs, and, getting in the truck sweaty and drive to the next one. And, oh, hey, Miss Jones, I'll just send you an invoice in the mail if that's okay. I don't have time, and I don't, I've got to get to the next one. So phone's ringing. It was a hectic time. I guess that's the difference between somebody that comes out of business school, or maybe a business setting where they've been taught a little bit of that, compared to somebody that's got to kind of figure it out along the way. It eats up a lot of years that that we could have been more efficient. But yeah, it also allowed me to be who I am, and probably made me a little mentally tougher as I went too.
Yeah, I can imagine knowing every single aspect of your business also is a huge advantage to you, right?
It is. It allows me to kind of keep my eyes on everything, and from the bookkeeping side of things to now learning some of the marketing stuff. And it allows you to keep a better pulse on the business because you've had to do it yourself before. So it allows you to spot things a little easier, or get ahead of things before maybe they get out of control. It definitely took some years of learning the hard way.
Yeah, man. So I'm seeing right now there's like this big move that these big investment firms are coming in. They're buying up all the trades, you know, name it, plumbers. They're buying up AC companies. Have you had offers?
Yeah. We get pieces in the mail and phone calls all the time.
What's
Whether it's
that
from
about?
Well, there's this big movement where these private equity firms are coming in, and they've done the real estate thing for years, and they've built huge portfolios in real estate, and now they're basically trying to do the same thing with home service businesses. To your point, plumbers, roofers, AC guys, electricians. They're basically coming in and buying as many AC companies or home service companies as they can. The unfortunate part of it is that all the service goes out the window at that point. They basically, these firms, when they come in and buy them, they basically have to come in and jack the prices up, and take the customer service and a lot of the accountability away. And I'm always careful not to talk poorly about other companies. It's not really something I believe in doing, but um, the PE firms that are coming in and buying all these companies, they don't. It's bottom dollar, top line numbers only, and unfortunately, the homeowner is the one that suffers, because then the service goes out the window. Some of the integrity probably goes out the window, because when you're only hunting the dollar, it's hard to make the right choices all the time. And it's probably the reason that we're not bigger than we are, at this point in time, but we sleep well at night. We have a good customer following. You're going to start to see the differences between the big private equity firms that have been bought out, and the shops like us that are still running things ourselves, because the customer service just can't stick around once you're bought out by a large company like that.
Do you find that their clients would leave too? Like, how are they getting? Is most of what you do? I know there's like annual maintenance, right? But then most of it's going to be emergency, right? Like my AC broke, I need it now. And in Florida, 100 degrees, plus most AC companies aren't even getting out to you the same day because they're so busy right now. So the first one that's going to show up, they're probably selling you on the spot.
Oh yeah. All It's called on demand. So you've got your maintenance, and then you've got on demand calls, meaning they need something right now, something's broken. And again, with the larger firm style, they have to sell something at every job, especially because a lot of them say, oh, well, we'll waive the service call, or no service call. Well, listen, it still costs a lot of money to get that guy in a van and pay him a decent wage. That guy might be making $40 an hour, and then they've got to put fuel in the van, and insure the van, and liability insurance, and shirts. And you can't send a guy to a house for free, and, oh, well, we won't charge you a service call. Well, they're going to get it. And so, yeah, to your point, it's going to change a little bit.
Yeah, buy now and we'll waive this $125 fee, but they're jacking up whatever.
Yeah, add 300 on the back end.
That's great. So what are people supposed to do? Like these guys they probably have more money to advertise.
Oh,
They
yeah.
probably have more manpower to be everywhere on social. So you Google AC company near me, they're probably ranking higher on Google. What's the customer supposed to do?
Well, unfortunately, it's going to be harder and harder. I would say, it sounds weird, but you probably got to find the sweet spot. If you see a company that has 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 reviews, they're probably one of the large conglomerates that are running so many calls that they can get that many reviews. Those are going to be your bigger PE companies. You see guys with a couple hundred and maybe 1,000 type reviews. Those are probably the more medium sized local shops that you're going to find. Outside of that, if they want to call and say, are you a privately owned company, or a PE firm style company? We've always been a family owned company and always taken pride in that, but we are definitely starting to notice a lot of customers coming from these companies that have been bought out. I mean, we can pretty much tell which company has been purchased recently by how many customers we start getting from them. When they're, when we get call after call, oh yeah, we used to use this company. Yeah, we used to use this company. They must have got bought out because people are flooding over. People still want that hometown personal service, and I don't blame them.
I love it, man. Hometown personal service. There's nothing better than that. I absolutely love it. Chris, talk to me about being an entrepreneur, man. What have been some of the lessons you've learned in your last 15 years? Like if you had to start all over again, right? You're starting, but you know everything that you know now. What would you be doing different?
I tell you, a lot of the things that I would do different are things that I've figured out in recent years. And one of them, unfortunately, even though we were doing a good job or we felt like we were doing a good job, I look at it now and think we could have done a better job. And, just being, kind of candid and transparent here that, we spent years really wanting to make sure we never sold anybody anything. I mean, we were anti-sale. When we went in somebody's house, they'd have to beg us to buy an air conditioner because we did not want to be the typical car salesman. Every time we walk in the door, we tell you need a new unit. And because of that, we spent a lot of years going into houses and saying, oh, here's your problem. We fixed it. It's this much, trying to keep your bill as low as possible and see you later. Well, I think the fault that we find in ourselves with that is because we were working so hard to not sell and not be those guys. We look at it a little differently now where we're like, hey, listen, if these people are going to pay us $99 to come out and look at their air conditioner, let's not just fix the part that's wrong. While we're there, let's go ahead and go through the whole system and let them know if there's anything else wrong. They don't have to buy anything. We're not even going to pitch them on a sale, but at least that way we can walk away going, we did everything we could and we let you know what was going on. If you guys want to do something, give us a call. If not, no problem. At least we let you know about everything. So that's something that I look back on and have some regret that I wish we had done earlier. But again, we had seen so much of the shystery sales stuff, and every time you step in the house, we're going to sell you something stuff that we were trying so hard to be the opposite. So I would change that. I would get help a lot sooner. In other words, I'd let somebody else do the books sooner. I'd let somebody else do some marketing sooner. I try to hand off tasks instead of doing everything myself. I'm the guy that wants everything to be perfect all the time, and so I just say, oh, I'll just do it myself. Well, I should have done a better job of teaching other people to do it so that I didn't have to do every single thing and allow me to be a little freer to work on the business and not in the business. So that's a huge, I guess I'll call it regret that I have, something I would definitely do different. I definitely have a different overview of things here in the last year and a half, call it.
That's awesome, man. It took you 13 years or 12 and a half years to come up with that. So that's good.
Yep. Better late than never, right?
Did you ever want to quit?
Oh, yeah. Burnout is real, and burnout happens when you don't learn to let other people help and to delegate a little bit and to trust other people to do some of the work. Going back to the fact that we never really tried to sell anything besides the one single piece that was bad. It also puts you in a position where it's hard to grow beyond a certain point that way. And so therefore that was kind of a double-edged sword. Looking back, had we done things what I would now call the right way, it probably would have allowed for a little bit more growth to where we could have had some consistent help and, still been able to keep our finger on the pulse. Better late than never.
Yeah. Why didn't you quit?
Because I'm not a quitter. As burned out as I was, I kind of got to the point and I said, all right, I've either got to get out of this business, sell it, walk away from it, whatever it is. I'm only 40. I've got 2 kids. I don't want to die young because I'm stressing myself out, or I need to learn to do things a different way. And, ultimately, I'm not a quitter. We've got a good customer base that I wouldn't feel right leaving behind, essentially. And so I said, hey, you know what? I just need to get better at business to allow this to go on and for the business to exist with a life. And so ultimately I looked at it and said, I'm not a quitter. There's still life left in this thing. Let's get our cards in order here and do this thing the right way.
Man, I love that so much. Not a quitter. That's really cool. How do you your goals?
Not often enough. That's how I said them. I guess I try to approach it from a personal standpoint, a business standpoint, I guess a financial standpoint to some extent. I always try to keep a number in my head at a certain age. And to this point, I've always been able to reach those numbers, and I'll continue to do that. But, I try to divide them business wise and personally, so right now I'd look at it and say my business goals are to create processes for every inch of the business. I mean, if somebody's supposed to hit the enter key, I want a process spelling out how to do it, when to do it, and what to do if the enter key doesn't work. My goal is complete organization and process building. Personally, I'm always trying to get better. I've never been a perfect person. Heck, when I was young, I was kind of a turd, but as you get older, it's funny, my dad was always a pretty rigid guy. And, especially when I was a kid, he was old school, roughneck. You'd get your butt whipped, you did wrong, and that kind of thing. And, as years went on and I had kids, and all of a sudden my dad's going, "Oh, don't be so hard on them. What are you talking about? Do you remember what, And then I
When did you
realized,
go
yeah, I realized every year I get a little bit older, I just get a little bit more sensible, a little bit softer, a little smarter, whatever it is, better at reflecting, so I've got that personal goal of, hey, I just want to be a better person each day, 1% better. I don't think I'm a bad person, but there's always room for improvement. I want to be a little calmer. I want to be a little less judgmental. Every day trying to be a little bit better on all, personal levels is kind of that personal goal that I'm just going to run with until I get it right.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's really cool. How big's the company now? Like, how many people do you have?
It's still just, it's me, one technician, and my wife, and we're trying desperately to hire somebody for the office and a couple guys for the field. But between lack of talent, I guess you'd call it, lack of people out there, or maybe even lack of people that are going to meet our requirements. I mean, at the end of the day, I'll keep doing it myself before I let somebody go into somebody's house that I don't trust or that's not going to do the job right. It may mean that I work the rest of my life, but there's no way I can have somebody call my business and then send somebody to their house that may mess something up or pick something up they're not supposed to. So we're working on something that will, I guess, incentivize good people to come, people that are above the norm and above the fray, and somebody that we can get to join the team. If it means we've got to give a little ownership, whatever it is, we're looking for superstars and A players that can stick with the company forever. And when we find those guys, we'll really be able to take that next step.
That is really cool. How do you know, like, when the right person shows up? What type of qualities are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking for somebody that's hungry to succeed, somebody that wants more for themselves in life. I'm not looking for somebody that just wants to come and squeeze through their 8-hour day and, kill as much time as they can. I'm looking for somebody that's coming in saying, hey, here's what I can do, and I'm willing to learn to do more, and I want to make more money. I want to do what's right for the company so that in turn I can benefit from it. I'm looking for a team guy that wants to be part of the company and not just an employee of the company, or girl. I know that there's probably not a lot of those people out there, but I think we can find them. And if we do and we treat them right, our goal is to make people enjoy coming to work. I don't want guys that I got to go to work today, or, oh, geez, I don't get off till 4. I want guys that are excited to come to work because we're giving fun training and we're doing activities as a group, and we're taking the team out to dinner and going on trips together. And, that's the type of stuff I want to be able to do for guys, but I'm only going to do it if they're the right ones, So if we can find that set, we will have something that no other AC company here has. And that's a team that's truly out for the customer all the time.
That's so cool. Are you recruiting out of state?
I have not yet. It's something that I would be open to. And to be honest with you, I guess the only reason that I haven't is because I want to make sure that I have all those processes dialed in place before I ask somebody to relocate. I would hate to ask somebody to move their life and get down here and me go, okay, I'm not exactly sure what to do with you yet because I'm still building these. So, I'm getting really close to having all that stuff done. I'd say in the next, month max, I should have all processes, all trainings, because I'd like to be able to hire a guy or a girl on, whether it's for an office position or a field position or whatever it is, and say, come on in. We have all the training set up so that you know exactly how we want every piece of the day done. Here's what your 12-week training is going to look like. And after that, you'll know the Southern Values way. And there should never be a question as to what to do and when to do it. And really, when I can get those final pieces put in place, hiring out of state is probably something I really need to look into, because, the pool here is only so big.
Yeah, I remember during COVID. Maybe it was COVID. Maybe it was like, when all the BLM marches were going on around the country, and Florida incentivized police officers to move down because they really needed police officers, and they were paying
Yeah,
like $5,000 plus moving expenses, and I mean just recruiting left and right. And they would be running ads on TVs in other states. Just, hey,
smart.
sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, absolutely enjoyed our conversation, man. I love what you're doing. I'm going to be rooting for you hardcore. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you were hoping I would?
No, I don't think so. The only thing that comes to mind is, I would I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of mention to everybody that there's a big change in the industry coming that a lot of people don't know about, and that's the fact that the refrigerant is changing again. And the problem with more people not knowing about it is that they're gonna move to a flammable refrigerant that we're all still kind of trying to figure out. But they're also saying that costs on new air conditioners are going to go up 30% plus after the first of the year. So, not a sales pitch. Yeah, not a sales pitch, just kind of a public announcement there, because a lot of people don't know it, and they won't know it until it's time to get a new unit, and they go, "Why is this so expensive?" Well, there was a change. I wish I had known about that. So we're kind of trying to make everybody as aware as possible. At least that way they have the chance to research it and get educated on it before it happens.
Really cool that you're doing that. Hey, man, thanks so much for being here. Congrats on all the success. Wishing you double, triple, quadruple success, whatever you want, man. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Eric.